All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking how one of the most iconic rooms in American history, the Lincoln Bedroom, somehow became the absolute center of a highly coordinated campaign finance machine. We're heading back to the 1990s, specifically the Bill Clinton presidency. The administration was facing some serious pressure to raise funds for the 96 re-election campaign, and what resulted was a strategy that completely blurred the lines between the prestige of the People's House and the relentless grind of political fundraising. Literally, the Lincoln Bedroom became arguably the most sought-after perk in all of Washington.
This whole controversy exploded into public view in August 1996. Picture this. An investigative report by the Center for Public Integrity comes out and basically dubs the White House a fat cat hotel. They pulled back the curtain, revealing for the very first time a comprehensive list of major political donors who'd been granted overnight stays. And that phrase, fat cat hotel, it immediately caught fire in the media. It perfectly captured the public's growing discomfort with the idea that this historic executive mansion was being used as a luxury reward for wealthy campaign contributors.
And you know, the sheer scale of this operation, it was just staggering. When formal congressional investigations forced the administration to release its records in February of 1997, the numbers really shocked the public. Those records showed that a massive 938 guests had stayed overnight at the White House during President Clinton's first term alone. Out of those, 821 were specifically housed in the Lincoln Bedroom. Now, sure, some were public officials or old friends from Arkansas, but a very significant portion were major political donors.
To really understand the public outrage here, we just have to look at the preceding administration. During the 4 years of the George H.W. Bush administration, there were 284 overnight guests. Fast forward to Bill Clinton's first term, and boom, 938. The guest list more than tripled. This stark contrast made it clear that there was a major, intentional shift in how the White House residence was being utilized. It wasn't just casual hospitality anymore. It had morphed into a high-volume operation.
So let's move into Section 1, the sleepover strategy, memos, money, and perks.
To really grasp how this wasn't just, accidental hospitality, we have to look at the inner workings. These internal mechanics were exposed when former Deputy Chief of Staff Harold Ickes turned over about 500 pages of fundraising documents to avoid a congressional subpoena. Take a look at this 1995 DNC memo. It completely lays bare their strategy to hit a targeted $40 million fundraising goal. And that strategy relied heavily on using the White House itself. The DNC was looking to reward generous, soft money donors, people giving unregulated funds to the party, with absolutely unparalleled access.
And here's the crucial point. This was fully endorsed at the very top. When the memo suggesting these overnight stays reached the Oval Office, President Clinton didn't just casually approve it, he embraced it. He personally wrote an enthusiastic note right on the DNC memo saying, "Ready to start overnights right away." He even added instructions to get lists of names of people who could donate $50,000 or $100,000 or more.
But the Lincoln Bedroom? That was really just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The DNC essentially offered a whole menu of taxpayer-funded administrative perks to reward these generous donors. Aside from the sleepovers, contributors were offered private White House coffees, VIP seats at the president's weekly radio addresses, dining privileges at the exclusive White House mess, and private dinners. They even offered seats on Air Force One and Two. It was literally an all-access pass to the highest echelons of the federal government, provided you wrote a large enough check.
Now, to manage this incredibly complex web of donors and perks, the DNC used a massive $1.7 million computer database. Democratic insiders affectionately called it Big Brother. It tracked 350,000 donors, their donation histories, and most importantly, the specific perks they wanted. Former DNC Finance Chairman Truman Arnold actually admitted to journalists that he used this exact database to make sure major party donors got their promised VIP access, including those coveted nights in the Lincoln Bedroom.
Moving right along to Section 2, Hollywood and High Rollers. Who stayed?
So, who actually got the keys to the most exclusive bed in Washington? Well, the records showed a fascinating mix of people. You had close friends from the Clintons' Arkansas days, massive business tycoons, and a heavy, heavy presence of the Hollywood elite. We're talking massive cultural figures here. Directors Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, Barbra Streisand, Mary Steenburgen, David Geffen, and Jane Fonda all spent the night. In the context of campaign finance, these were individuals absolutely capable of contributing or raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for the party.
Which naturally makes you wonder, what was it actually like to stay in the Lincoln Bedroom? Beyond the political strategy in the memos, what did these donors experience crashing in a literal museum? Well, they got 5-star treatment for sure.
Beds turned down, breakfast menus in the rooms, and passes to roam the residential quarters. But remember, they were also sleeping in the middle of a working executive mansion.
Because it was a working White House, the experiences were all over the map. Take actor Richard Dreyfuss, for example. He got a very early morning wake-up call, awoken by President Clinton himself at 7:20 a.m. just to talk politics. Then you had Arkansas Bank executive Curt Bradbury, a conservative who supported Clinton as a native son. He described the whole thing as sleeping in a museum. And on the extreme end, you had filmmaker Linda Bloodworth Thomason, who started her sleepovers on the very first night of the Clinton presidency and ended up crashing there for a staggering 101 nights over the years. No way, right? And we absolutely can't forget Democratic fundraiser Patricia Duff. She made massive headlines with this lighthearted remark after staying there, calling Bill Clinton one full-service president. Now, that reportedly angered the president at the time, but Duff later clarified it was totally innocent. She was just genuinely surprised and delighted when President Clinton personally knocked on her door to deliver a morning cup of coffee.
Let's look at the fallout in Section 3, the lasting legacy, decades of dividends.
So despite all the intense media scrutiny, the public outrage, and the congressional hearings, this sleepover strategy was simply too valuable to abandon. The practice actually continued right into the next phase of the Clintons' political journey. Records show that at least 404 guests stayed overnight at the White House or Camp David after Hillary Clinton kicked off her U.S. Senate campaign in July 1999. The Lincoln bedroom remained an incredibly potent tool for building relationships.
And the loyalty forged during those sleepovers, it was remarkably enduring. Fast forward to the lead up to the 2016 election. By late 2015, an analysis of Federal Election Commission filings revealed that 34 of those original, living Fat Cat overnight guests from the 90s were still writing checks. Together, this small group chipped in a combined total of over $1.15 million to support Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign and its affiliated super PACs.
I mean, talk about a long-term return on investment. This table really highlights it. Of the original surviving guests, more than half were still financially backing the Clinton political network 20 years later. Look at Steven Spielberg. He's leading the pack with over $1 million in contributions by late 2015. You also see prominent folks like Alice Walton, Patricia Duff, Tom Hanks, and David Geffen all maxing out their primary campaign donations. That single night of historic hospitality cemented bonds that quite literally lasted a political lifetime.
But campaign finance is never 100% predictable. Not everyone remained fiercely loyal to the Democratic Party. A few of the original guests eventually turned their checkbooks toward Republican rivals. Even Truman Arnold, the former DNC finance chair who utilized that Big Brother database for the perks, he eventually gave $25,000 to a super PAC backing Republican Jeb Bush. And Curt Bradbury redirected tens of thousands of dollars to support Republicans like Lindsey Graham and Chris Christie.
So ultimately, this explainer leaves us with a pretty massive question to chew on. When the Lincoln bedroom is used to court campaign donors, where exactly do we draw the line between public property and political fundraising? Does leveraging our nation's heritage for campaign dollars fundamentally change our relationship with the spaces that belong to the American people? It's a fascinating question and one that absolutely still echoes through the halls of Washington today.